Very pleasant good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into O'Neill's Grill for our weekly fan and press luncheon with JMU men's basketball coach this afternoon. Matt Brady is with us here today. Of course, the football season behind us now, so we'll just concentrate on hoops here for the month of December into January and, of course, into February as well. Coach Kenny Brooks and the women's basketball Dukes on the road today as the Dukes are facing the Bonnies of St. Bonaventure. That's a 7 o'clock start tonight in Western New York. For Coach Brady, welcome in today. And 10 games into the season for the Dukes, same record that you had a year ago, 10 games in at 7-3. But can you kind of give us a little bit of state of the Dukes address here, 10 games in, Coach?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think we're reasonably pleased with the record, but we're always tinkering with what we can do better. And I think with this group, we certainly appear as if we have far greater depth than we've had in my time here. The challenge for our staff is to continue to try and employ the depth as much as we have. We'd like to be able to get guys out there with longer stints. Defensively, what seems to be the case is that there are areas we can certainly get better. We are not the most fleetest of foot laterally here, so that's going to be an ongoing issue, how to cover the court from sideline to sideline, do a better job guarding the three-point line. And, the thing that I am reasonably pleased about is we are a better blockout team. It's something we spend a lot of time on in the preseason. So I think we are blocking out better. I think that we can get better at that end. I think the other thing is on the offensive end, I'd like the ball to move freer and the player movement to be better and the ball movement to be better. But we are obviously a team that has a lot of individuals that can make shots. And so we got to put guys in position to make shots, but we also have to have the basketball wherewithal to move the ball and share the ball and not have the ball stick to hands. And so, that's something we're going to continue to work on as a group.
Coach, last year, as you were 10 games in, the Dukes were averaging only 67.8 points per game. This year, 10 games in at 79.8. The margin, though, is that you're getting about 8.5 points a game more than your opposition at this time than you were a year ago. You just mentioned offensively, so you're putting pretty good numbers up. What are you looking for from a numbers standpoint as far as your average offense per game then?
Well, I think the one number we would like to see go up, and we did a good job of this last night. We stressed to our team about offensive rebounding. I think one of the guys that's really helped us is Shakir Brown, done a really good job. Tom Vadamage has given us a great effort on the glass. Yohani hasn't been terribly healthy here the last few games, but Dimitri, Yohani, and our other wings have got to figure out a way to get a few more offensive rebounds per game. So we want that number to be higher than it has been the years past, and we're committed to sending 3 guys every possession. So it's really a mindset that we crash the glass hard with 3 guys every possession. So that number needs to go up. But I think our field goal percentage numbers and our three-point field goal percentage numbers is good. The other number that is concerning at this point is free throw percentage.
You're right.
Those 2 numbers. And if we get more offensive rebounds, hopefully we get a few more free throws. But that number needs to be north of 71 or 72% to be, at the top, a top team in this league. So those offensive numbers that clearly can go up are offensive rebounding opportunities, and then I think free throw percentage.
You have shot the ball pretty well from three-point range, but it also seems, Coach, there are times that some of those three-point shots are coming when maybe they don't necessarily need to be coming at a certain stage in an offensive set.
No, and we did it again last night. We talk all the time about ball reversal, and then we get guys that get really anxious. And, a guy like Dimitri Chabakaba, I think he thinks he has to pass the ball only when, he's guarded by 2 guys. It's really remarkable to me how hard he wants to shoot the basketball, how often he wants to shoot the basketball. And his percentage is a little bit down, three-point percentage. A year ago, he was a little bit of an unknown quantity, and now he's a guy that's being guarded harder on the three-point line, and he's still, very eager to shoot the ball. And so he's a guy that's got to move the ball easier. The ball's got to come in and out of his hands quicker. And I thought there were times where even Tom Vadamage could have reversed the ball last night, and we'll get easier shots or better opportunities to drive the ball if we reverse the ball. So ball reversal and ball movement and player movement are 3 things that we talk about here a lot. And, we've got to do a better job of that. And, I think it was opportunities last night. We could have done a better job in all 3 areas.
Yeah, you mentioned Chabakaba. He was on my checklist of someone to talk about today. And he has, in 18 consecutive games, at least produced one three-pointer. He had a career-high 4 yesterday. As you go back and look at him as a developmental player, what did you work on prior to him getting the playing time he is, and when did it start to click that you and Mike Dean said, okay, it's time to insert him into the lineup?
Well, we obviously did that late last year with about 10 games to go, and I think it was probably the right time. I'm not sure he was ready much before that. He was certainly chomping at the bit and eager to do it. I'm not sure that emotionally he was ready to play. We came into this season recognizing his uniqueness, and I do think he's a guy that can score both in the low post and on the three-point line. Mike has been in my ear, as you just mentioned, Mike Dean, about playing him a little bit more. Came into the season thinking that we might be able to play him together. Not sure that we're going to be able to do much of that. It's certainly not playing man-to-man the way that we're trying to play it. It's hard to play them both together. We obviously have played zone both in the last 2 games, and it's been good to us both these last 2 games. But it's something that we kind of spot in the game. It's not something we go in with a clear identification that we're going to play this team zone. I think if we played more zone and got better at it and could cover the corners, that we could potentially play Dimitri and Yohani together. But Dimitri is a guy that's very eager to play and wants to be an impact guy. I think what he's done a much better job of this year is scoring in the low post. And he is a guy that we want to score in the low post. We want to play through him in the low post. He's a guy that can offensive rebound, probably better than he can defensive rebound because he is so big. I think the other thing that we're on Dimitri about is just getting rid of the ball, just passing the ball to the next guy. It's obvious that every time he catches the basketball, he's got one thought, and then after that first thought, he's not really sure what to do. It's almost like a baseball player in the batter's box. He's going to try and get a hit. If he can't get a hit, he doesn't know what comes next. So, he's a good player. He is a unique player, and the game is not terribly easy for him at either end, but he is an eager learner. But I think when he gets in a game, he's thinking one thought.
Yeah, well, if he can learn that when he is getting these double teams, because he now is a known quantity, that could open up some opportunities for some of his teammates. I'm sure that you're aware of that. I guess it's just a matter of making him aware of that. I want to also ask you a little bit about Ron Curry. Game to game, certainly he can score the basketball, but he can also provide you with leadership and assists and playmaking, and one of the best defenders, obviously, in the Colonial Athletic Association. When you go in game to game with him, like the 2 games against Marshall, he went into those games with a different mindset. The first time, because he didn't have much of a backup, Joey McLean was on the bench. Yesterday, he had a little bit of help. Are you talking with him on each game as to what his role is supposed to be, or how does it develop throughout the course of the 40 minutes of a ball game?
Yeah, no, what we've asked Ron to do is, we liked his ability to score, obviously. Now, the unique thing about Marshall is the way that they guard ball screens. When they guard the ball, they try and keep you on the sideline. So Ron has been very aggressive driving kind of the slots, the sideline to the lane. And I thought he made good decisions last night. In fact, I thought one of the best plays of the game last night was he drove in the second half and threw the ball back out to Dimitri. That's a pass that we've talked to Ron about a lot. When you get into the lane, know where your shooters are. Know where Jackson Kent is, know where Dimitri is at all times, because if you can get to the lane, you're going to draw help. The other thing we've talked to Ron about is, pivoting after he picks up the ball. I think he is such a good athlete. And most good athletes, when they get ahead of steam, they want to jump off one foot. Ron has been much better this year than he has pivoting after he's picked up his dribble. That allows you to do 2 things. It keeps the defense off of you. It kind of keeps the defense momentum going to the rim so you can pivot and get a shot, which he's done the last few games. He's gotten a clean shot when he pivots away from the defense in the lane. But the other thing it allows you to do is it allows you to see everybody on the whole court. So as you pivot, you should have a sense of where everybody is. Kind of gives you a 360 idea of the court. And that's kind of the next thing for Ron. When he gets ahead of steam and he comes to a quick stop and he pivots, have a sense where everybody is as you start to pivot, and then you're going to rise up and use your athletic ability to shoot if you need to. So, that's something that we talked to Ron about, and we see snippets of it. Ron pivoting in the lane, and I think the next step for him is to pivot, be able to pivot a second time, and find guys on the court that are our best shooters. That's the easy shot in basketball to shoot, is that kick-out pass either from the low post, from an offensive rebound, or a guard pivoting and kicking out. So those are three areas we talk to our guys, and we drill those shots all the time in practice.
Well, also watching his game and his shot develop, the more elevation he gets,
Yeah.
it seems the better his shot is.
Yeah.
At least in an observation standpoint. It was a fun game, I think, for the fans yesterday there against Marshall. Couple things on that game in particular, Coach. One is knowing how the game ended the last time, how they played you the last time. How did you feel the Dukes responded to playing this non-conference opponent a second time? And to see Shakir Brown have the kind of game at home, excuse me, than what he has shown us 4 times on the road now.
Right. Well, first, I thought that, in those middle 7 minutes of the second half when they pressed us, we turned it over again. And again, to me, it's not, are they in the right place? It's just making the right decision and being able to make the quick passes. And it's not necessarily the first pass you have to make, it's the second pass when you see pressure. Sometimes you can make the first pass, but invariably that ball sticks, and that guy thinks, well, I've got to make a play. And what we're trying to teach our guys is when you defeat the press, it's the second and third pass that's going to lead to an easy score. And very often we make the first pass, first pressure, and then that guy thinks, I've got to take a dribble or I've got to make the pass. It's really simply a matter of ball reversal. When you get pressed on one side of the court, reverse the ball with a second and a third or even a fourth pass. So I think, in the last 6 or 7 minutes of the game, I thought we did a really good job of that. And I think the more we see it, the better we'll get. The second one is Shakir Brown. That was who we've seen on the road almost every game. I was glad for him and his family who came in mass to the game last night. His family, I think, is going to be a staple in this, in every game. But they've been in every game. But to see all of his family, really neat. And I think we got a chance to see him play well and play with the joy that he obviously plays with when he's playing. And it's really refreshing. And it's not about himself. He has a love of the game that really is refreshing and contagious. And I'm happy to see it. We haven't seen much of it in the convo, but you saw it last night. He's a really good player. And again, it's his passing, I think, that's making us a better offensive team. It's not his scoring. I mean, it's a welcome thing to see these leads go from 4 or 5 to 10 or 12. And I don't know that we'll see it very often, but it's really his passing that's going to make us a better team. And I think it's helped Jackson. I think I've talked about it to our team. Jackson last night goes out and has 7 assists. So, I think it is contagious. Easy passing and ball reversal is something that when everybody does it, it's contagious. And the way we shoot the ball and the way we can score in a low post, if we just pass the ball from side to side and not care about holding the ball, I think we're going to get better. But it is a day-by-day process with this group.
All right, we'll turn it over to other members of the media here at O'Neill's Grill as we continue with our Fan and Press Lunch with JMU men's basketball coach Matt Brady.
Coach, with Dimitri, he may not score a lot in one night, but he seems to score at a moment that can kill the momentum of another team. Is that something you agree with? And how big is it to have potentially that kind of weapon with conference play looming?
No, I agree with that. He might not necessarily score, 3 or 4 baskets in a row. But I think like Jackson and like Ron, he's got great confidence. His next shot's going in. He can mix 100 shots. Not that he will. But he knows that next shot's going in. He wants to shoot it, and if you give him a little bit of space, he's going to make shots. That is what he can do. He is a great shot maker, and he can do it in the low post. He can do it on the three-point line, and he can create momentum for us, and he can stab off another team's momentum if they're getting a run on us. I have great confidence he can make shots. The thing that he hasn't learned is what's a good shot and what's a terrible shot, and not what's a bad. He takes some god-awful shots, and I took him out last night, after he made a couple shots because I didn't like how he reacted after he made shots. He's got a great love of the game too. I'm not sure if it's a love of the game quite like Shakir's. I think he's got a great love of shot making. Like Shakir loves the game, and Dimitri loves to make shots. And I think Shakir has great love of the ball moving and cutting and offensive rebounding. Dimitri, we all see it. He wants to make shots, and he is a different dimension for us. I just hope that he learns. It's still early in the season, and we have 2 more seasons of his great shot making. I just want him to become a more mindful shot taker.
You've dealt with many transfers coming into the program during your time here at JMU. How tough is that from a coaching standpoint to deal with players who just come from different coaching philosophies, different mindsets as they adjust into your program?
Well, I do think that's it. Like, it is a mindset. It's different philosophies. It's different points of view. And it's really what value system. Like, we're talking to Shakir about becoming a better defensive player. The things that I think he does well, I'm clearly trying to accentuate for him. I want him to know that I value his passing every bit as much as we value his ability to make shots. And now it's, in junior college basketball, particularly for Shakir, they played through him so much that he could have 4 or 5 turnovers in a game. If you have that at this level, you play the best teams in our league. You can't escape those turnovers. You're not going to win games. And just came from a very lively conversation with my staff about the need to value every possession, like it's a game-ending possession, and we're not there yet. And I think if every player can value every defensive possession and every offensive possession, it's a game-winning possession. Shakir's not there yet. He has some loose possessions. He knows that. We talk about that all the time.
And finally, you've had now a couple of games under the new student section setup in a sport where atmosphere plays a big role in men's college basketball. What do you hope to see from that, as clearly it's a work in progress?
Well, I'm hoping that Saturday is our best turnout. And, marketing has worked hard. I know we've worked hard as a program. I can't work any harder to get the students out. We're going to do some things this week to kind of catch their attention again with emails and other things. It's critical. To be the best, you have to have student support. I don't know that there's any way to do it. Otherwise it's cyclical. So I know that we've taken it on the onus to get the students out, and hopefully Saturday with a 4 o'clock game, George Mason, Saturday before finals. It all lines up for a great turnout. Whether or not it is, I don't know, but we're really hopeful. We're optimistic, and anything that we can do, we're going to try and do.
You always say you follow box scores, and it seems like night after night the CAA keeps picking up big wins. Does it feel like a little bit like the old days this season so far?
Well, I've said it now a couple times. Last year, I think, was the floor for our league, and I think we're seeing that. This is a better league than it was a year ago, and not to be Nostradamus or anything, but next year is going to be better. I mean, this is going to be a really good league. The coaching in this league, I think, is as good as any in the country. I mean, every game in this league is a different style. Billy Cohn is a great coach. Tony Shaver is a great coach. Charleston's, their staff is excellent. Playing Towson is really hard. It's not an easy game in this league, and so for our fans, it's great. For our coaches, it's not so easy. I don't know how many wins you have to get to win this league this coming year. I don't know if it's 12 like it was a year ago. I don't know if it's more. It could be less. But this is a very good league, and it's still a younger league, just like we are. We have 1 starting senior, and I think the league is going to be better next year, and we're going to continue to, I think, pile up non-conference wins.
I think it's like 75% of the starters from last year are back, 24 of the top 30 scorers are back. I mean, is this simply boiled down to just having that experience back on the floor?
Yeah, and I think at our level, at the mid-major level, you need to have experience in your starting lineup, and we were grateful that we were regular season champions with only 1 upperclassman. So I think, we have a chance to do it again this year, but the league is better. The league is better, and we had 6 sweeps last year. I don't know that anybody's going to get 6 sweeps this year. It could happen. You have to play really good basketball to get 6, home and road wins against any common opponent this year, and so it's a really good league. I don't know that we're going to get to a 3-bid league, but we're playing well. The league is representing our conference really well, and hopefully it'll continue.
I asked you maybe like 3 weeks ago if you thought this could be a 2-bid league, if that was realistic. Is it still too early to tell on that?
Well, again, I follow a lot of leagues. Conference USA was really good last year. 4 top 100 teams, and they weren't a 2-bid league. I don't know that we have 4 top 100 teams, so it's really hard to be a 2-bid league. Yeah, I think it's hard. I think it's really, really hard to be a 2-bid league, and we'd all like it to be, but Conference USA wants to be a 2-bid league. I don't know that the Missouri Valley today is a 2-bid league, and so that's a league that has a lot of guys back. I don't know if they're a 2-bid league. Certainly, Conference USA is not a 2-bid league. I can go through the list. There's not a lot of 2-bid mid-major leagues right now. In fact, I would say to you, the league that Gonzaga's in right now today is not a 2-bid league.
And you've talked so much about how you like the chemistry of this team. I mean, behind the scenes in the locker room, what's the demeanor like? Is this one of your more loose groups? How would you describe these guys?
Well, this is a group that's appreciating winning. And again, we did it again last night. We came in, and it was not a quiet locker room. So that was very different than even it was a couple weeks ago when we beat FIU when we were quiet. This group appreciates the fact that, winning is hard. And last night we were loud. The guys were clapping, and that didn't come from the coaching staff. That came from our upper-class guys. They were clapping, and they were loud. And, and I appreciate that. I think that's important, that our coaching staff appreciates the fact that there's a little bit more leadership, coming from our team in regards to the locker room, which a year ago that wasn't present.
Coach, I mentioned that certainly the football season is done, but 2 very successful back-to-back seasons for the football program, and of course with game day coming here. Comprehensively for the athletic program at James Madison, the success that the other teams have had in this fall, how does that feed, or does that feed at all into your program? And even when you go out to recruit, does it help in that regard that you can say, look at the comprehensive success that James Madison's experiencing?
Well, yeah, number one, I'd like to take my hat off to Everett and his staff and those guys. That was a great season. And playoff sports at the college level is a completely different animal. It's really, really hard to win. It's hard to win in the regular season. There were so many close games in our football stadium this year that they pulled out, and that's remarkable. And you see it rife in college football late on Saturday night. I ended up watching that Michigan State-Iowa game. That was a remarkable win, but Michigan State's done that time and time again. But all of our teams here at JMU, there's a very high standard here for winning. I know it's very hard in men's basketball to win. Everybody's very invested in men's basketball. I do think there is a correlation with football winning and men's basketball because they're on TV, and football is watched on TV. I have 3 brothers that watch CAA football, and when I got this job here, my brothers remarked about the fact that CAA football is an exciting league. All those games come down to the wire, and they do. And so, I do think there is some you can feed off of football because it's on TV. I don't know that the other sports that there's any momentum created with in terms of recruiting, but the 18 to 22 male population does turn on the TV, see CAA football, so there is some identification. But when we win, it's a little bit different for our own sport. I think we've got to win. I think we are winning, and I've said it time and time again. The hardest thing to do is create momentum, and we have to do it. And I think we're getting to the point where I see it down the road. If we win a championship this year, we can win another championship. That would be 4 and 7 years or whatever it is. So that's how you build a program. It's very hard to do, and that's why we just talked about the cyclical nature of men's college basketball. And we're fighting that battle, and I think we can see it turning in our favor.
Another question regarding the scheduling. Obviously, Mason coming in here this weekend. Since there has been the evolution of the CAA, what it currently is, and teams that have left and now playing in other leagues, but they're still in the neighborhood. They're still very close games. I'm excited to see Mason come back. I know other members of our staff are excited to see Mason come back because we know that's one of the long-term rivalries between the 2 programs. How much effort and how much can you get done? How much are other teams willing, former CAA members, to come and do a home-and-home series or to do a trade-off, 1 year here, 1 year there? How much are you working to try to keep that going?
No, and Old Dominion's another game that we have active dialogue, and not in the last 2 months, but that's a game that we've talked about. VCU is a little bit different animal at this point. Remains to be seen with whether their new coach would entertain a home-and-home. I think that they may going forward after this, and I don't know where they are in scheduling. But we've called VCU and Old Dominion. It just hasn't worked out. But I think, from from a scheduling standpoint, this is what I envisioned when I took over the job. We want to play Richmond. We want to play George Mason. We want to play Old Dominion. We want to play VCU. I'm willing to do it. I think East Carolina is a very good game for James Madison for the same reasons you just mentioned. Marshall, they're undergoing a change in coaching staff. I thought they'd be a little bit further along. I like their talent. They're not where they want to be. They'd be the first one to tell you they lost a player to an injury. That's a pretty good game for us going forward. So I think the regional rivalries that we want to have, and I think Radford, as it turns out, is a good game for JMU. And Mike's done a really good job at Radford. I think we're playing the right games. But like anybody else, if you have an injury, like I think Marshall has a significant injury to a starting guard, it changes your season. So we're going to continue to revisit Old Dominion and VCU, and that's all we can do. And we'll ask those guys if they want to continue to play. I think that we're good and we're going to stay good. And we'll play those games as long as we can stay good.